This is a full book summary of LUO GUANZHONG's The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Now, due to my time constraints that are given to AKA, the person who goes ahead and actually uploads all this and manages all this, I will have to finish this out really quickly. Get ready for some oversimplification, heavy oversimplification, and get ready to get through a bunch of romance. I'm going to be skipping a lot of battles due to the summarization, so let's get this pointed started out. There are several main plot points, and I'm going to really talking about just 20 of them. I'm gonna split this into like 4 parts, each part being 30 chapters long. And now, within those 4 parts, each of them I'm going to be talking about 5 major plot points, some of them being longer than others, and then overall, there are only 5 major plot points in the story. So hold on. Now, in the first part, in chapters 1 to 30, we have the peach tree scenario. Now, unfortunately, this updated device no longer has pink color inside our toolbars. So what we do now is that we're going to use purple because they all meet all of this in the border from the north to the south. Now, under these peach orchard trees, these 3 brothers go ahead and swear an oath that they will go ahead and become brothers in arms for the rest of their lives, all the way until they die the same day, the same week, the same month, and the same year. Who are these people? This guy is Xuan De. Most of you will probably know him as Liu Bei. And then we have this guy. His name is Zhang Fei. And then we have the last guy, his name is Guan Yu. They proceed to go ahead and celebrate like this for a little bit before they're recalled into a campaign to protect the emperor. The emperor himself proclaimed that, hey, save me from the yellow head turban rebels. And they proceed to do so. But in doing so, the emperor has basically went ahead and given away his power over these warring states and has let each warlord basically rule his own territory. And basically he created a bunch of kingdoms, like 50 kingdoms or 50 territories in fact. They all consider themselves Chinese, but this is basically all out civil war, people. Along this time, there's this, basically there's a bunch of eunuchs that are corrupt, just like any dynasty, and they're all corrupt, and they're all like, hey, we need to help you, emperor, in ruling, because we are your friends. And then we have an uncle who goes ahead and headed the military, and is all like, yeah, well, I was the one who went ahead and knows all of this military stuff, and that's what you need right now, Emperor. My little nephew, Emperor. I think you should come with me, eh? And so, obviously, the Emperor himself, who has never really met his uncle, decides to go ahead and give a bunch more power towards his scheming eunuchs. This is obviously a big mistake, and eventually he will regret it. Along this time, there's these warlords that are at the palace, and they're all like, hey, we need to do something about this guy, and we need to go ahead and assassinate someone. They proceed to go ahead and assassinate the eunuchs. The eunuchs themselves, however, before get assassinated, they hear about this plan, and then they figure out that the main conspirator is aka He Jin. He Jin himself is probably no idea that his plan has been foiled, and his head is beheaded. And this is all witnessed by the other people, and you know what happens next? The entire palace is inside a chaos. And obviously the emperor himself had already went ahead and called Dong Zhou to come over and help him out in this situation, to go ahead and help protect the emperor. Dong Zhou, the big fat greedy man himself, goes ahead and complies and arrives at the place. Then realizing the state that the city is in, basically here's what he sees. He expects to see a city of golden, probably a little bit fighting, but he can control that. But then he sees, instead of that golden city, he sees everything on fire. Now, with those things on fire, he's probably visibly very, very confused. And then, of course, he goes ahead and finds the young emperor and his brother. They're walking around the palace, like the outside, not knowing who they can trust. Now, the brother of the emperor goes ahead and speaks for the emperor, who is extremely terrified, and he's all like, hey, you, Dong Zhou, yeah, you fat man, how dare you not show any respect for our emperor? He's like, who the hell are you? I'm the emperor's brother. You see this guy? He's the emperor. What are you gonna do about it? And Dong Zhou himself is all like, impressive. I'm very, very impressed by you. I like this kid. So he proceeds to go ahead and serve under the emperor. After he realizes that he has all the cards in his hand, including the emperor, he proceeds to call himself prime minister of basically the entirety of China. Then he promotes himself to Prince of China. That just puts him 1 rank below the emperor. Now, at this point, he probably could have considered killing the emperor, but why did he? Well, at this point, no, if you go ahead and kill an emperor and call yourself an emperor, you're basically just gonna call yourself a rebel. And at this point, legally wise, anyone can kill any rebel. And you don't want that. So what you have to do is you have to go ahead and capture the emperor and make him your puppet. Dong Zhou himself has a bunch of unfriendly people. Cao Cao proceeds to go ahead and try to assassinate Dong Zhou. It receives a very, very bad welcome, and he he very fails. Once Dong Zhuo realizes what is happening, he proceeds to chase Cao Cao, who has managed to already escape the area. And then, of course, we go ahead and go to see what Xuan De, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei are all doing. They're doing really well, honestly, for their lives, and they are in the epiphany of that they are all separated. They're all not together, and they are all scattered, and they're trying to get back together, because that's what brothers do. These brothers go ahead and proceed to a rendezvous at a point after going through a bunch of hardships to prove that they are still blood brothers towards each other. There's a lot of other plotting that happens. Dong Zhuo is not the most popular man alive, so people want to try to assassinate him, and people are failing to assassinate him. Dong Zhuo himself has met his match, and a guy named Lu Bu in the battlefield, and he proceeds to go and capture Lu Bu and adopt him as his son, and proceed to turn him into his own military advisor. Except he's a terrible at military, and he just knows how to fight. Now, the coalition themselves have went ahead and tried to fight Dong Zhuo, and Dong Zhuo himself was able to go ahead and wipe off all of the coalition members, and was able to defend his position as prince of the entirety of China for a while, mostly because the coalition themselves were also hated each other secretly and wanted to fight against each other, and they went ahead and proceeded to go ahead and go at each other's throats instead of going at Stephen's throat. Cao Cao himself finally goes ahead and meets Xuan De. Xuan De proceeds to fight Cao Cao. He gets defeated, and then at this point he meets this military advisor, who his name is Xu Shu. Xu Shu or Su Shu, I suppose. It doesn't really matter. How he does it, he advises Liu Bei, aka Xuan De, in all his military affairs. This works like a charm. Then Kong Ming. And then he goes ahead and has to go back to Cao Cao's side because Cao Cao has his family. But he recommends another very talented person. His name is Zhuge Liang, aka Kong Ming. Kong Ming himself is already 10 times better than Xu Shu, and he's a very great person to go ahead and lead a battle with. He proceeds to tell the secret of the Three Kingdoms towards Liu Bei, aka Xuan De, after on his third visit of attempting and finally succeeding in seeing him, and then he proceeds to join the trio inside how they go ahead and how they should fight Cao Cao, mostly because he believes in the man that heaven is still with the Han Dynasty, and that he needs to go ahead and help this guy, who's right in front of him with such desperation, help him with his control. And now, with the deaths of these people gone, and the creation of the Three Kingdoms is now on their way, Kong Ming proceeds to go ahead and show his skill in killing people with emotional damage. And then he proceeds to go ahead and do so too. He proceeds to also damage people with emotionally and to go ahead and create these physical scenes. And then Cao Cao proceeds to kill Xuan De's enemies. Xuan De himself has managed to be able to conquer a bunch of other territories and call his own state the state of Shu Han. Cao Cao followed suit by going ahead and doing his best to do stuff too. Cao Cao doesn't really want to declare himself an emperor though, because he still needs the emperor's support to become like the most powerful guy in China. Then our Sun Quan, the guy who goes ahead and runs away, is all like, hey, I don't think I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be an independent king. Is that alright? They proceed to let him do so, but then he later joins the Emperor Club. And so these years of fighting happen. Kong Ming uses his emotional damage, his wit, and his skills to go and predict the future essentially, and deal with how they should deal with it all incredibly fast. I don't think that's the same that actually ever happened in my life before, because everyone does not know really how these splash potions work. While they do know that's what stuff is dangerous for them, they can just E it out or Q it out. Kong Ming proceeds to go ahead and stay with Xuan De all the way to the end, and then proceeds to witness the deaths of Xuan De's brothers Guan Yu and Zhang Fei. Guan Yu goes ahead and visits both of them, like by them I mean Xuan De and Cao Cao, and proceeds to make Cao Cao get a bunch of stress. He dies of distress too. What happens next though is kind of inhumane. There's a bunch of attacks. They go ahead and they're over everywhere. They go ahead and destroy everything in their path. And then Kong Ming proceeds to troll everyone once again. They go ahead and take care of the deaths of these people. And then Shu Han Emperor, aka Xuan De, who is declaring himself the first Emperor Shu Han, is like, I need revenge now. I'm gonna go attack both of them. But first I'm gonna attack Wu because they have killed my brothers. Kong Ming advises against this heavily because this is a terrible idea. But then like Xian goes and decides to capitalize on this, and it's like, well, I made you a easier bridge, but if you wish to go the long way, then sure. Cao Cao obviously dies from all this heart attack, and then Xuan De goes ahead and starts doing his best to try to survive and keep morale open. Well, spoiler alert, it doesn't work, and Xuan De goes ahead and proceeds to die. Before he goes ahead and dies, so he tells Zhuge Liang, aka Kong Ming, about his predicaments with some of his officers and how he should probably not trust them and all that. But Kong Ming proceeds to do that anyway because he believes this to be in best interest. Sometimes it works out really, really well. Other times it works out really, really horribly, and they are lost and stripped of their stuff. They have a bunch of ambushes that happen, and then Kong Ming starts to go ahead and take over the army and the entirety of and proceeds to go ahead and try to get to the entirety of the China. And this is where our final part comes in. Kong Ming goes ahead and trolls again, managing to actually kill someone this time. Actually kill someone with time this time just by opening his mouth, saying something on the lines like, "You are very old, you're going to die soon. When you go ahead and meet the Han Dynasty, how dare you talk to me about the mandate of heaven? You're going to talk about the Han Dynasty, but what you're doing is evil. If you go to the heaven right now, will they go ahead and answer?" And they'll say, No, I will go ahead and forgive you," and that kind of stuff. Right? Right. Good. Kong Ming proceeds to use more of his cunning to get through all of his defenses, and he manages to go ahead and get everyone rallied down. Kong Ming starts doing a bunch of prayers to get the Westine inns. He proceeds before Cao Cao and Xuan has died. So I already skipped over the battle very close because it's just one of the most important battles ever. But they don't really add much to the plot other than Cao Cao being defeated and sent back to the north. Then there we finally find the creation of the three kingdoms officially. Now we have Shu Han, we have Wei, and we have Wu. And then we can go ahead and have the Three Kingdom period officially start. They go ahead and they all rise. They start rising together, and then they start building these together for a while, and then they proceed to sleep. And then we have desperation, and then the all-knowing easy calls. And that's actually about it for the part 4. And now we finally get to the last part. Here in the last part, we finally get to see the world having a somewhat happy ending. By that, I basically mean the fact that once Kong Ming died, because he already died long before what I just said about the last part, he's still able to scare his enemies. Once he died, he gave his friends pouches of instructions on what to do if someone did what or someone did what and that kind of stuff. He goes and reads out loud on one of them. They proceed to laugh at him. Yeah, Zhuge Zhan goes ahead and dies fighting. There's a shaman who fools the second ruler into thinking that Kong Ming himself must be withdrawn, otherwise he will go ahead and create more trouble about all this. The guy just grins at her and sadly does his work. But alas, three kingdoms must all reunite back into one. Now, which you might be able to think and imagine that Cao Cao's descendants, the second and third and fourth emperors of his established Wei dynasty, would last on for a very, very long time. It did not actually last less than 1 minute, mostly because the people went ahead and proceeded to talk with each other about it. And now, obviously, everyone is dead. All the major players are dead, and nobody is alive anymore. When you go ahead and imagine all this inside your head, you realize that once everything falls apart, they must all reunify again. The three kingdoms are now usurped by a guy who establishes the dynasty of Jin. And now with the dynasty of Jin, he proceeds to conquer Shu Han. Shu Han is now under Jin dynasty territory, and then they proceed to attack Wei, and wow! The Three Kingdoms period is over. All that is now just one big kingdom of China. It will eventually split again. But as the cycle goes, the kingdom long united must divide, long divided must unite in this endless cyclical cycle. So I hope you guys enjoyed my full book summary of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. really, thank you for your time in watching this video for 15 minutes. I hope I didn't waste it. And I'll see you guys soon in the full book review. Bye bye!